Hey guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock, and yes, Kizzy Rock is my birth given name. Happy Friday, happy second recording. Want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well as season. I have a quick word for you. Tap in. In fact, I have a download. So one of you guys emailed me like a month ago, and you asked me something similar to this, and I did respond to you, but I want to go a little deeper since I got the download on the trail, nature trail. So here's the thing: hearing from God can be very confusing, especially if you're just starting out learning how you hear from God, because remember, we all hear from God differently. But if you're just starting out, there's so many different voices pulling at you. You got your own flesh, you have familiar spirits, you have the enemy, and you have the Holy Spirit. So there's so many different voices that's pulling from you. So personally, I believe it's more about maturity and it's more about experience. But don't beat yourself up if you feel like you're not hearing from God, or like you're missing God and you're all confused. I think even some of the most mature people, way more spiritually inclined than we are, have the same issue. At times, it's just that they have more experience to know how God speaks to them. And from my experience, God will sometimes switch up how he speaks to you. For me, a lot of mine are number one is just spiritual downloads and promptings. They're just something that drops in my spirit. And when it drops in my spirit, it's so profound. It's so pure. There's no confusion. There's no nothing. It's just a knowing in your spirit. For some people, I think probably most people, is reading the word. Typically for me, reading the word gives me confirmation. There's times I do get revelation, but a lot of the times it's confirmation of what was already downloaded into my spirit. And then of course, God will use people to, and again, for myself, a lot of the times it's confirmation. And sometimes it's revelation and then God will bring something back. But stillness is key. So find your still place. As I'm speaking right now, actually, I'm looking at a gentleman. He's sitting at a picnic table on the trail, and he has a journal, and he's just writing down. It's like he's in his thoughts. He's just writing as he sit under some trees. So whatever stillness is for you, you got to get still. You got to limit your distractions. This is why God starts cutting people off and we start losing relationships and we feel like it's punishment. And many times it's not that it's punishment. It's that God is trying to get you less distracted, because that's how you're going to hear from God. So my good sis who emailed me, you have the same problem that I had, and I still struggle, but not as much, is getting ahead of God. Be gentle with yourself. You have people who lag behind God, and it's just as detrimental as getting ahead of God. Here's how I now live my life and how God have conditioned me. Because he knows us. He knows each one of his children. He knows who can get ahead of him. Honey, he will let us go and bump our heads one too many times. Let me tell you something. God will let you go and bump your head and make a fool of yourself one too many times, and you're going to get to the posture where you like, you know what? I'm not moving until I know that I've heard from God. But here's how I live my life personally. Again, when I get my conviction, it's so profound. And 95% of the times, I just know that I know that it's God. I move on my conviction. If it's not God, he blocks it. When he blocks it, you don't beat the door down to make it happen. He's blocking it for a reason. Either he's blocking it because it's not him, or he's blocking it because it's not time. And a lot of the times for myself, he's blocking it because it's not time. He will show us things because he knows some of us will kind of go astray or just kind of start getting tied up in something else. So he will show it to you. He will convict you. He will give you the vision for you can have something to lock in on and something to work towards. But it doesn't mean that it's time. And that's the most frustrating for me. That's the most frustrating thing, being a visionary, because he shows it to you clear as day, but it doesn't mean you can have it now. There's a process that comes before. Okay, so once I move on the conviction and he blocks it, I don't go beating the doors down any longer. I let him block it. Because here's why. If it's from God, he will come back and he will convict you to move again at the right time or in a strategic way. See, the enemy you might have already ran your mouth or talk out loud or something like that and told somebody about it. Now the enemy heard you. Now the enemy has done gotten there and then messed some things up. So now God might have you to be still. This is why sometimes we have to be still, because there's a new strategic way. The promise is the same. The thing is the same, but now there's a strategic route. So if it's from God, right, he's going to come back and get you. He's going to convict you. And you're going to feel that levee has broken. Now there's a free way for you to now move. You're not blocked, right? You're not blocked. If you're blocked, you can't do anything. Everything you try, left, right, up, down, every avenue is blocked. You can't even go anywhere. But when it's God, he's going to break that levee for you, and then you're going to be able to move freely. The issue that I have, and many of you, is when we do have the levee down, we still run ahead of God, where we have to find that balance where you are in proper alignment. God is still ahead of you, right? And you're not lagging too far behind. But those of you like me, you're running past him. And then you hit another block. And you hit another block like, God, why am I blocked again? Then you look back and God is behind you on the nature trail, just standing in the middle of me and this visionary mind of mine. I promise you, this visionary mind of mine, things be popping up in my head, right? You done ran past God, honey. And now you're looking back like, God, where are you? Why am I blocked again? Why am I back in the wilderness? And you look back and God is in the middle of the nature trail on the path, just staring at you, as you ran all the way ahead of him. He just standing there looking at you like you crazy. And now you got to let your pride back, and now you got to go back and get in alignment and get back behind God. When God moves, you move. Because when he moves, this is why when the levee breaks, everything is so, like I like to say, the human domino thing, right? Picture yourself in front of human life-size dominoes, and you tap it and they all start to fall. It's because God is going ahead of you. Your angels are going ahead of you, and now things are moving because you're in proper alignment. So it's about finding that pace. It's about when God starts blocking things, we got to get up out of our feelings, right? Because that's child. You talking about being your feelings. We be in our feelings and we be having hissy fits because we feel like, oh, it's not God. I missed God. Oh, I heard God wrong. And a lot of the times, no, we're just ahead of God, or you're lagging behind. But if it's from God, the conviction is going to continue. You got to move on your convictions. I think a lot of people are afraid to move on their convictions. I have a friend like that who she'll feel a conviction, or she'll feel like she heard from God. But when you check up on her a year later, she still haven't moved on that conviction. She still have to pray about it. Sis, you've been praying for a year about it. It's important to know you heard from God. But for me, if it's not God, when I move on that conviction, he blocks it. So I have a choice. Am I going to sit there and have a hissy fit and keep beating the doors down? Or am I going to realize that, all right, he blocked it, so that's not for him. And I trust and believe that if it is him, he will break the levee down for me, and he will come back at the right timing, the correct timing. This is why a lot of you feel you're moving down in the spiritual realm. For a lot of us, that levee is down. So just be sure you're staying in proper alignment, in the proper pace with God. It's your girl.